sometimes at the beginning of class I say, let's get the dark parts out. Just to bring in the world, bring in, pile on, and no exit, and then just be loving and grateful. I feel like that's a near impossible task for me. But for us and everybody in here and everybody, in fighting arts, to have some way to, channel all of that energy and that stuff out so you can get to your compassion and your love.
It's like
you gotta hit stuff.
Yeah.
Or someone.
Welcome to the Self Instruct Podcast. Today we are honored to have Kru Hope Vitellas, a true pioneer in the Muay Thai community and the owner of North Muay Thai, which recently celebrated its 20th year anniversary. Kru Hope is not only a seasoned fighter with an extensive record in multiple titles, but also a dedicated mentor who has cultivated and produced numerous champions. Her fighters have claimed countless tournament victories, a testament to her expertise and dedication. Kru Hope is much more than just a gym owner. She's also an accomplished acupuncturist, musician, and a guiding force for countless students who've walked through her doors. Her fighters have dominated tournaments nationwide, earning titles and respect under her expert guidance. But what sets Kru Hope apart isn't just her success in the ring, it's her holistic approach to training, living, and being. At North Muay Thai, Kru Hope has developed a program that goes far beyond physical fitness. She helps her students cultivate mental strength, spiritual resilience, and a deep sense of self-awareness to navigate life's challenges. Her school is rooted in community, kindness, humility, and respect, creating an inclusive and welcoming environment for all. Kru Hope pours her heart and soul into everything she does, empowering her students to become more confident and grounded individuals, both in and out of the gym. Join us as we explore her journey, her wisdom, and her unwavering commitment to building champions in every sense of the word. It's great to have you, Kru. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Such
so
an honor
glad you two are doing this.
We're pumped. We're excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an honor to be here. And obviously, just to give our listeners some context, Aaron and I obviously have been your students for several years, so we've been here for quite some time. So we feel like we have a personal involvement in this episode and having you here with us. And I know that I can speak for Aaron and for myself both. You've been a mentor to us and our entire school. You've been a friend and a confidant. And to speak even more personally, you were the official at our wedding. You married myself and another fellow student, Bonnie. Shout out to Bonnie.
Bonnie, what a great day that was.
Such a great day. I was actually looking at our wedding pictures the other day and just thinking about it's just crazy how much time has passed, and it feels like it's just a blink of an eye. And all the years here and all the blood, sweat, and tears that we've shared together here and all the tournaments we've done together, and just what a great relationship we've built with you and here
in the school. A lot of laughs in those corners.
A lot of laughs. A lot of laughs. I say we just dive right into some questions. And of course, the first question that I feel we should ask is, how did you personally get involved into martial arts?
Well, I always sort of was drawn to the martial arts and fighting, but there really wasn't anywhere in Steubenville, Ohio for me to expand on that. And then when I came to college, there was a restaurant called Thai Village, and I would go there to study. It was at the time where you could smoke in coffee houses, and so going to Insomnia, which was the main coffee house on campus at the time. I'm dating myself, but
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
You do?
I don't remember that one though.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember.
You have to be born in 1990 to remember that. So the coffee houses were pretty smoky, and libraries would put me to sleep. I had a bunch of roommates, so I would go to Thai Village, and the food was so good. And I would take up a booth and study. And Lek, who was the owner, was so warm and welcoming, just, very Thai in his hospitality with the people in the restaurant. And so I got to know him. He would come and say hi, and I was there all the time. And so after some time, he asked me if I wanted to learn Muay Thai. And I didn't know what that was. I mean, we're talking 1991 in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what is that? And he gave me these VHS tapes to take home. And I looked at it. I went home and I put them in. And I'm like, what the heck? I swore that these tapes were being fast, like there was something wrong with the tape, that they were being
Sped
fast.
up.
Yeah, sped up because they were kicking so fast. And I didn't know what was happening. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll learn it. And he took me to the back of the restaurant. They had a big banquet hall where they would do weddings back there, Cambodian weddings and Vietnamese weddings. And on the dance floor, he had a heavy bag hanging from the ceiling that he'd put up. And he never really showed me anything. Even to this day, I have to say I've barely seen him throw a single shot. But he just described to me what to start doing. You know, it was footwork and a rear roundhouse, and that's just how it all began.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Did you get hooked right away, or is it?
It was touch and go. I liked it. I wasn't in love, but I kept doing it and practicing. It wasn't until I had a little fire put under my butt that I was full in. And there was a waiter there that all the waiters were also practicing on their breaks between 2 and 4 when the restaurant closed. They would go and hit the bag or train in the back. And I don't think he liked that I was there, and I'm not sure why. So he asked me to spar in a different location, and I didn't even know what spar was. I just thought it was working out. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go. And it was not a good scene for me. Let's just say that, guys. I took a few hits. I took one hard hit, and I think after that I was like, oh, no one's going to do that to me again.
Right.
That was one of the turning points. I feel like there were several turning points, but that was my first one.
Yeah.
That made me start training harder and doing all the things and really igniting that fire inside.
That's awesome. I mean, not that you got punched so hard that it made you ignite something deep within you, but it's great, obviously, that you found that sense of depth of fire. Tell us a little bit just about your fighting career from there. Like after a few years of training, what was your first fight like? What was the rest of your fights like?
Oh, gosh.
Especially back in those days, right, where you had to return the belt. You didn't get to keep them when you won tournaments.
I know. You won the belt. Here, take a picture with it and then put it back in the case. We have to give it to the next person.
Wow.
Because they only had one.
Yeah, they only had one belt.
Were these tournaments local? Like were your first tournaments local here in Ohio, in the state of Ohio, or did you have to travel?
The first one I fought in was here. It was the Bondo tournament that came.
I remember I saw the very last one.
You did?
I had just become a student, and you had taken, I think it was 4 fighters. It was Laura and a couple of others, and I got to. That was my first experience of a tournament.
Yeah, it got to be a very good.
Yeah.
But I showed up there, and Lek was running a restaurant. He had never signed up to be my Muay Thai, all my everything. And I wanted to fight after that little incident I had. So I signed myself up without him knowing. And that was my first experience. And I mean, that's sort of a longer story that might take longer than this. But I called him right before the fight. And he always said, it was Saturday night at the restaurant. You know how packed my restaurant was? And I called him. I'm like, Lek, from a payphone.
Yeah.
I'm fighting in like 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
Can you come down to Larkins? It's like, what? And then, back then you had the landline, and I could just hear the phone going. And then he shows up, and he had those like Bruce Lee zip up 70s boots, and he like zips his boots up and like takes his tie off and his shirt.
Cigarette in his mouth.
Oh yeah, always. And he after that particular fight, I think he thought I was serious and also crazy. And so we began our journey together.
Yeah.
And I had fights in Pennsylvania and kind of all around. kind of everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever we could find someone. Because
Yeah.
it was 1992,
Right.
1993.
Right.
Fights were hard to find.
Internet wasn't yet
There was no internet.
alive. Yeah.
No cell phones,
No
no
cell
internet.
phones?
No,
Yeah.
none of that.
All you had was VHS tapes.
Yeah, that's what I had. And Rocky Balboa movies. That's what I based my training on.
I always wanted to ask you that. Did you ever like watch martial arts movies as a kid? Because I know they were also a lot less common, but I mean, I remember growing up watching Bruce Lee movies and like American Ninja and all those like, Eastern philosophy style Americanized movies, Rocky obviously. Did you watch a lot of those or no?
Kung Fu.
Yeah, Kung Fu stuff.
I feel like my answer should be yes, but it's no. I have never seen any. I mean, I saw Rocky.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember I was with my cousins in Brooklyn, and we saw Rocky 1. I don't know how old I was, maybe 7 or 8, and I came out of there throwing punches. I was ready to go. That got me really fired up.
So boxing was more like what you watched as a kid then in terms of martial arts?
I mean, if you want to call Rocky boxing.
Well, I guess I just mean like real boxing. I just remember growing up and I watched a lot of boxing too. Like, obviously Muhammad Ali and, Mike Tyson. And,
I never watched sports. We watched The Love Boat on Saturday nights in Fantasy Island. That's it.
The Love Boat. Oh,
That was
man.
a good show.
That was a good show. I remember watching that show as well. Wow, that's hilarious.
That's awesome.
All right, so I have a question based off of what you were just talking about with that, what happened to Master Lake. So has a similar situation ever happened to you with a student fighter where they've shown up to a fight and then all of a sudden you've been surprised that one of your students has signed up to fight somewhere? Has that ever happened?
No.
No?
No. I think they know better. Shot callers are ready to
I just
come
wondered
out.
if maybe like in the garage, maybe that something like that could have happened, where I guess you had not less structure, but you weren't as formalized as you are now, 20 years later.
Yeah, no. I feel like the garage was pretty formal, even
Yeah.
though we didn't have a proper, setup.
Yeah.
The teaching was pretty strict.
Tell a little bit about the garage. We got at least
got
touch
to.
base on the garage experience.
Okay, so I bought a house, and in the back of the house, it had a 4-car garage. It was a 4-unit building, and I lived in one. I rented the other 3. And the 4-car garage was condemned. I didn't even go in before I bought the house because it was boarded up. And so when I bought the house, I cleared out a little space, and I started training in it, and I hung a bag, and a friend of mine asked if she could come to learn Muay Thai. And initially, I never wanted to teach because it was so private and personal to me, and I just cherished it. But I said, okay, and she said, well, do you mind if I bring a friend? And she brought her friend, and we had a nice little session, and she said, can I come next week? And then, can I bring another friend? And so I cleared out just a couple more feet, and it was nasty in there, guys. It was gross.
Concrete floors. Do you have mats down?
I
or
mean,
anything?
I wish I could see the floor. It was covered with feces. Yeah. I don't know who was living in there or what was living in there, but my best friend Jason, he got in there with me with like shovels and masks and brooms, and every time a new person would come, we'd just clear out a couple more feet. And then they would come, and I'm like, okay, I'll hang, now 2 bags. And then my brother-in-law, he said, well, why don't I get some people in there? I can make a whole class. And I'm like, how many people? I don't know, 12. I'm like, 12 people. Okay, well, me and Jason were in there shoveling shit for quite some time. And we cleared it all out. We hung 8 bags. We insulated it, which really didn't help. And then we started classes. I started teaching classes in the garage. And after 3 or 4 months, there were so many people coming in and out of my house that I quit my day job. And then the police shut me down because they thought I was running some sort of underground
Brothel
in the back.
I heard that story.
Drug organization.
Yeah,
Did they raid you or what?
No, they said the Vice Squad came as like an undercover in one of my classes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy though.
Isn't that? And I still to this day don't know.
But if that happened, like they're like, I guess it's not, I guess you can't run a gym out of your garage, but still though, it's not like you were selling drugs or.
Well, that's what they thought. They didn't know because they just saw all these people coming in and out of my garage. So
That's wild.
That is crazy. So with that, off that topic, what finally made you, I guess, come to the realization that this was something that you also were going to feel, or that you were feeling passionate about and wanted to do, meaning teaching? Like, what was that pivotal moment? When did you realize, okay, this is something that I'm going to, optimize and use and do and share? Especially since you said it was so personal to you, right? Like, Muay Thai is so personal, and then all of a sudden now you're sharing it with, people, and even at times strangers, right? I mean, what made you decide, okay, this is something I'm going to share with the world?
I have to say that I don't think there was any decision there. I think it was one of the things in my life that came to me, and fighting it and Muay Thai. All of Muay Thai just kind of fell in my lap. And I think it's because it's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And I didn't make any decision. I didn't want to do it. I was getting, inch by inch, literally, like
Drawn in.
Yeah, one by one, until then I got kicked out of the garage, and then I had to come here. So, I remember back then, people were like, you need to get a website and you need to get a landline. I'm like, no, I don't want any of that. And so it grew organically.
It almost sounds like you fought it a little bit.
I did.
Pun intended.
I did.
Like, you fought it, like, no.
Yeah, I didn't want to mess anything up. And,
And at that time, this is your full-time job, right? Like, after you quit your day job, this is what you were doing solely?
This was it.
You weren't doing acupuncture yet then?
No. I didn't go to, I started the gym in 2004, and then I enrolled for my master's in 2008. And so I didn't start my acupuncture practice until 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about acupuncture since you brought that up. How do you feel like, with your martial arts background and then obviously being a healer and an acupuncturist, how do you see those two worlds sort of blending together, and how do you apply them in both of those worlds separately? What do you think the connection is for you, and how do you sort of navigate around that with your patients and your students?
Oh, that's a deep one. I think ultimately, when it comes to healing the body, or when it comes to training for a fight and absorbing knowledge and releasing blockages, it's all connected in the same. And acupuncture helps the nervous system relax. It helps the mind open. It helps the body release. It helps the chi flow, your vital force and your energy. And fighting itself, but it's the meditation and the learning and the ability to learn. And that's a big one. And the ability to heal. Those things, whether we know it or not, we have blocks. And just like if I'm teaching a student and one student is picking up information at a rapid pace and another student is having trouble, and they're have the same athletic ability, the same, brain, they're just as smart, but they just can't pick it up. And and this is just an example, but this person, what I have found is that person has a block, and that block is causing them an inability to process and bring it in, whether they're too preoccupied subconsciously with their home life or their job, or some trauma that happened, or maybe they're in a survival state, or whatever that may be, and getting past that and softening and opening and then letting go so everything can come in is where all the change happens. And acupuncture helps that. It's just another way to, what's the word I'm looking for? To support, I guess. To
facilitate.
Yeah, to facilitate
change.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. I mean, I've been on your table quite many times, and I can attest to that for sure.
Okay, so this is a question that I'm really excited to ask you about. What role does spirituality play in the way you approach challenges, either it's in the ring or as a teacher or even in your acupuncture business?
Every way. Every way is spirituality to me. I think that's where all things for me come. I mean, that is where all things for me come from. You know, I don't want to get preachy, but
we want you to share, Kru. Share it all.
I feel weird. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'm a big God believer, and I feel that presence. I feel it strongly in my life, and I am grateful for it. And I feel like it guides me and protects me, and supports me. And without that, I wouldn't be making the right steps. And so I lean into that as often as I can remember, try not to get lost in thought, and center in that in the morning and in the evening, and let that divine and supreme force work in the ways I know it can, and help me and help my students or my patients.
I mean, that resonates with the both of us. I mean, that's a huge reason as to why we started this podcast, Kru, was because we both feel that we are also on this sort of new, for us, or for me, I can just say
it's new for me too. Yeah.
It's this newfound spiritual journey, and it's really and that's really what drew the two of us together to do this podcast. This is essentially why we're doing it. I want to ask just kind of like a second part to what Aaron just asked you. I find it that the external world, the physical world that we live in, can be so distracting. What practices do you use in your like everyday life that help you to keep that connection, help you to keep that inner divine voice speaking clearly? Because there's so much chatter.
That's funny because, you know, you'd asked me last week to think about a quote that I resonate with. And I wanted to tell you, but I didn't, that it was from The Lion King. And it's when I didn't want to tell you.
Tell me. Now you gotta tell us.
You know, it's when Simba was he was having this problem with facing his future, his past, and his present self. And he looks at his reflection in the water, and he says, "I don't see my father." And then all of a sudden, Mufasa shows up in the sky, and Simba, you have forgotten about me. He's like, "No, Dad, I remember you." He's like, "You don't remember me when you don't remember who you are." And he says, "Simba, remember who you are." And that, like, I think about that quote at least 5 times a day. Remember who you are. And that is because that chatter, it's crazy. It's so loud. We're constantly being pulled out by all the things in life. And our senses and everything is hyper. That smell is so strong. Like now we have all the, you know, scented candles, essential oils, great and those are great. And the flavors and foods. And then we have the technology, and we have the kids, and we have, traffic and news, and it's like flood.
It's hypersensory.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much for me.
Totally.
And so I constantly have to reroute because personally, there's a lot of chatter in my brain. And that is with praying and with journaling and with meditating and with training. I mean, and there's still so much chatter.
Totally.
And I get body work done. I mean, it's all the things, but I just ground and remember who I am. And it's things like going through old photos, or, you know, reminiscing, or going through like special papers always brings me back, or just sitting with myself and journaling, and then getting away, just getting a little break so you're not spun up your patterns and because it just sucks you up so fast. And then you just feel like I have to keep going. And you can't. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing you're going to win. There's no race that's going to finish. It just goes until you're going to die. And so, behind all of us, there's these clocks that are ticking that we can't see. Mm-hmm. And we don't know how much time is left on our clock. And I think about that too. I think about that in my life and my son and trying to make all the moments count. And then the way I think I can make the moments count is to slow myself down, and slow myself down by doing Muay Thai in a way that feels grounding. Like doing it in here, yeah, it's good, but it's like eating at your own restaurant, like doing it where I feel most grounded, or journaling in places that I feel. So not only doing those things, but doing them in places and in ways that is the absolute most grounding and personal way to do them, to bring you back to center. Those are crucial for me.
Wow. That's incredible, and it so resonates with me. And I think about so many of the same things that you're talking about, and I'm still working on them too. Like I feel like half the time I'm not grounded, and I feel hypersensitive. Like everything is just tugging at me all the time, so often. But like you said, journaling and meditating and trying to find those things that bring you back down to center are just so imperative and crucial, especially in this day and age, right? We're just being bombarded with so much information all of the time, let alone our own brains, right? I feel like even they're programmed, right, to like shoot information constantly from the moment we open our eyes,
Yeah.
So
a lot of us are just in survival mode, we don't really have time to focus on the spirituality side of life. And
totally.
Just get so caught up in the mundane stuff. It's hard. It's almost like we're designed to... Like society's designed to kind of keep us away from that part of ourselves. I don't know. With our cell phones and just everything, the news. And
everything's external, not internal.
New society. But I feel like old society, that's where
old society,
yeah. Talk about those masters that knew the acupuncture meridians. They could feel where are those people now?
Yeah,
where
seriously.
are the people that could feel their chakras, that knew their energy, the way that those meridians were flowing. We've come so far in a way, and there's a lot of great things. I'm not complaining.
Of course,
of
course.
But it's important to remember who we all are,
right?
And we can't do that with everything happening. You have to have peace.
Yeah. That's one of the things I really admire about you, Kru, is that you do seem to be so deeply connected to your own roots, meaning obviously your background and your heritage and your ethnicity, and you're passing that on to your son as well. And it's something that you do as a ritual quite often, right? You travel to Greece all of the time. Share a little bit with us about your background and your heritage and what that means to you.
Yeah. Well, if you know any Greek people, I feel like they're all. It's because your parents will beat you unless you absolutely go back to the motherland. You have to speak Greek, and you must pass it on, and the brainwashing must continue for generations. No. My parents are. What they instilled in me is the backbone of who I am. They were Greek immigrants. And they came from an island called Chios, and our family's from a village called Kalamuti, and we go back every year, and I feel so rooted there. I feel my ancestors. That energy is strong, and it's thick, and it's there. And I feel so happy that I get to take my son there, and he's in it, and I know he's going to understand the depths of it one day, even though he can't stand doing Greek lessons with me. And it was the same with me. My dad would be like, "It's time to do your Greek." I'm like, "No, Dad." And then I got to go to the bathroom, and I'd be like in the bathroom for 45 minutes. El pida. I'm like, "Hey, I still am going." I'd hide my books. I did it all. I did. I hid my books. And he's like, "That's okay. Your brother has books." Yanni. But yeah, my parents were so grounded and so rooted with that, and that's the greatest gift, because that's the gift I had right out of the gates. It gave me a strong foundation, and being connected to my culture and the language and the people. The Greek culture is just, I don't know, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but they're so loving and warm and judgy, but also great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love my culture so much.
I feel the same way, but I feel like with my parents, like my father passed away when I was very young, and then my mom wanted to leave the island due to just so much chaos that was occurring. So she moved us to the States when I was 9. So I felt like there was a disconnect for a long time.
Yeah.
And in this new spiritual awakening, I feel like I've gone back to and wanting to root myself back into my heritage and my culture and my ethnicity, and I feel so much more connected to it now than I ever have. Even, I mean, I don't remember as a kid, I was only 9, but I can relate to that and what that feels like.
Yeah, I mean, that's who you were when you were born.
Exactly. And connecting that lineage and then sharing that with Mikey, even though he's only half Latino, it's still like he embraces it. He loves talking about it and he's drawn to it, and I gotta get him out to the island as well. He hasn't been there yet, but
can I just ask about your spiritual awakening? I mean, this is the first kind of that I'm hearing about it. Can I just share
don't you remember when Brian fought? When he fought here at the Ohio Combat League or whatever, you and I were talking about meditation, and
I do.
Well, it started just before then, and I had just connected with Aaron. I don't know, Kru. Just one day, I kind of woke up and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what's the purpose of all of this? Why am I? And Bonnie's always like, you're like the endless seeker. You're always looking for answers. Yeah. And just, I don't know, something woke up in me, and I've just been seeing God in everything and everyone and everywhere and in me. And I've always been really sensitive, as you know, and I've always wondered where that's come from. Like, why am I like this? Why am I so easily offended or easily affected by something or someone? And I just wanted to get to the root of that. And then I after my breakup here in the gym many years ago, I went to counseling, and then after a few
this morning, by the way.
I fell out of counseling after a few years because I started my business, and I just felt like I was on an upswing, and at the time I just didn't think I necessarily needed to continue, and then I started seeking out another counselor, and I started going back to counseling, and it has made a huge impact in my life and the way I feel about myself. More importantly, how we see the world is one thing, but how we see the world is how we see ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So I've just really been wanting to cultivate more of that, and I've just been trying to experiment and extend myself and try to get outside my box and try to learn new ways of coping and dealing with my inner fears and my inner doubts, and just wanting to get to know myself better and just wanting to understand myself so that I can process, right, what we were just talking about, this exterior that we're, for lack of a better term, stuck in this life. And I know that's not the end all be all. And it's just like, that's why what you said resonated so well with me. You were talking about how there's no end game. There's no race. Mm-hmm. There's no, we have to prioritize every single moment. Not something I've done my whole life is I've lived in the past and been in fear of the future. Mm-hmm. And I'm robbing myself of living in the present. So I feel so much more, and I'm still a work in progress, of course, but I feel so much more grounded in every single moment now in terms of cultivating a relationship with myself and then feeling the divine within me.
That's great.
Because I feel it. Like,
yeah,
I feel it.
I feel it.
I feel it in my fingertips. I feel it in my aura. I feel it in my relationship with my wife. I feel it in my relationship with you, with Aaron, with it. But most importantly, like, I'm trying to cultivate that within myself and feel closer to God and go back to my roots. And I feel like, and even that's defined so much differently now than I thought it was when I first started this journey. So it's something I'm really trying to like work on, and I feel like it's affected my Muay Thai practice, and I feel like it's affected my tattooing, and I feel like it's affected my just sense of living,
mm-hmm.
you know.
And since that's happened, how do you find that you're seeing and feeling so much more like serendipity in your life?
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example.
Isn't that weird, right?
It's so weird.
That's why I bring it up.
It's so weird.
When you start leaning in, it gets so beautiful.
And it's not even that that serendipityness isn't there. It's just you're aware of it now. You're awake to it.
I mean, that's what people say, but I'm going to have to argue that I feel like the universe flexes a little more for you. And
Tell me what you think about that. Tell me, share what you think the difference is between the two.
I mean, people say that serendipity is there and signs are there. You just have to see them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree with that. But I also think that the more that you lean in to your divine self, or the more that you lean into that positive, loving energy, that so much more, you attract more things that are meant for you, and you see that. And I see it not only in myself, but I see it in the students. Like when they start making the changes, with that Muay Thai life makeover,
Right.
It changes.
I see it too. I know what you're talking about in terms of people in here and how they change from one day to the next, and then the day after that, and then the day after that, and the day after that. That's true. You're right. That does make sense. It's almost as if the universe is like, oh, I see you seeing now. I see you seeing now. So boom here, boom here. That does make sense. But serendipitous this morning, both Aaron and I show up here, and this is it's funny because this is exactly how the podcast started, and not to get completely off track of the episode, but when Aaron and I decided to meet one day, I wanted to consult with him about equipment to purchase in terms of, because I wanted to start my own podcast, and the premise of it was to interview people that I tattoo. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
So him and I got together one day, and we were literally, when we showed up meeting, and we hadn't seen each other for a few years, and we were meeting at the Starbucks in the Giant Eagle here, and we both showed up wearing the exact same hoodie, the exact same one.
Same pants and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then this morning, I had no clue, but then this morning, we both show up here literally at the same time, and we're wearing the exact same coat.
Oh, my God.
And of course, I had no idea. I'd never seen you wear that coat before. I don't know if you ever seen me wear that coat. Same coat.
That's crazy.
Same rim, same color, same cuffs of the sleeve, and we're both just like, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, God.
And we were both going through the spiritual awakening at the same time. We didn't even realize that we were.
Right.
We just kind of discovered that through having coffee with each other.
Aaron, did you? I mean, can I ask what? I know this is like turning this podcast around to you guys, but
No, it's
I'm
okay.
so
We love
interested.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So I grew up in a Catholic family, so I've always kind of had this connection to like a God source, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a Christian school, and but as I got older, I felt like I got more and more disconnected from that and skeptical and all that stuff. But it wasn't until I gave up drinking alcohol that I started feeling it again. You know what I mean? I felt this connection to something higher than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I went to like AA or anything like that, but it was just honestly, it's because we started having some paranormal things happen in our house. And
I mean, you briefly touched on that with me. But
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
still happening?
well, it's so. My wife's sister passed away in end of February, and it always happens around that time. Like we'll have loud banging.
You're coming into that season.
Yeah.
I got chills.
Yeah. So, and my daughter Rose, I think she's
clairvoyant.
She's intuitive at least.
She's intuitive for sure.
She's seen shadow figures. She's seen. She felt somebody jump on her bed while she was just laying in bed. She felt something like she came and she's like, "Daddy, someone just jumped on my bed, like, and it woke me up."
Whoa.
Yeah. So we actually switched
God.
rooms because it got so bad.
So is it scaring her, or is she okay with it?
It's scaring her to the point where we switched rooms. So, but I think it's a loving energy. I really honestly think it's Keisha's sister, and it dates back even to our old house. We had things happen at our old house. Like Samuel would be like, "Mommy, there's somebody in the corner over there." Like you know what I mean?
Whoa.
Yeah. So
How long has she passed? How long ago did she pass away?
I want to say it's coming up on like 16 years. 16
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yeah, 16 years. So, and it was a very unexpected death. You know,
Okay.
It was a drug overdose,
Yeah.
and so she left without having any closure or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
So that sent me down the rabbit hole of just looking into paranormal things. I started reading a ton of books about near-death experiences, and then I started having a bunch of like serendipitous things happen in my life, and one of them involves you, Kru. Listening to the Thich Nhat Hanh book, The Art of Living.
Yeah.
Great book.
And he's talking about, I'm out in the middle of the country, driving, in between shoots, and I'm not in a great space. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like depressed, and just my life. I'm sober at that point, but I'm just not happy.
Yeah.
You texted me and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a documentary about happiness. And at that very moment, I was listening to a chapter about happiness. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's amazing.
Like, this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
You know what's funny? Every time I hear Aaron tell this story, I remember, and this must have been happening around the same time. Talk about serendipity. You asked me. I was on your acupuncture table, and you asked me what I thought the definition of happiness was.
Really?
Yeah, and I remember I was giving you some like elaborate answer, and you turned to me and you said I don't even know what the answer was, or I don't even know what I was telling you, but then you said to me, I just think it's being able to not take things personally. And it's funny because Aaron and I have had this discussion about that same thing, because I believe it happened around the same time, and I've carried your answer with me since as well, like trying to find ways of like not taking things personally, which will obviously enrich your sense of happiness,
especially when you're sensitive like me.
Exactly.
And you.
Exactly.
And you.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's funny how that just those things have drawn us together to create this project, and
that got me back into Muay Thai. Like we met up, and
I love that you're coming back.
Yeah,
it's totally.
I feel lost without it. It's it's just so good.
Yeah. Since you told me that you can cut this part out, but since you told me that you came, and I don't know if you said that you left or you waited. Like
I came the last time I was at the gym, and I don't care if this is on it.
Yeah.
I sat in the parking lot. It was before you could sign up in advance. You literally had to sign on the paper. And I sat in the parking lot, and like literally 5 minutes before the class, I left. And then I didn't come back for like 5 years, almost 5 years.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So glad you're back,
God.
dude. Yeah.
I didn't honestly know if I would ever be back. And that meeting with you really kickstarted for me. So and now I can't live without it. It's
Remember that.
That's right.
Yeah. Remember who you are.
Let's dive a little bit more about that, and maybe focus a little bit more on like how do you. And I know that you're intuitive. I know that you harness a sense of a strong spiritual self. How do you apply that, and how do you sort of perceive that in your students and in the daily practice and the daily grind of teaching and instructing? How do you feel like that plays a role, and how do you approach your students in that way?
Can you repeat the question? Can you shorten the question?
Yes. And I'm notorious for doing this. We'll go on and on.
I had you at the beginning, and it just started to sound like.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll make it simple. How do you implement like your sense of spirituality and awareness with your teaching and your students?
Like general students or fight team?
Oh, that's right. We were going to talk about the fight team. Let's talk about both. But let's start with the fight team. Yeah, because that's a little bit more precise, right?
Okay. How do I incorporate spirituality with the fight team?
Yeah. And how does that guide you in coaching them?
I need to feel like their spiritual energy and mine are aligned for this to happen.
So it's not about their skill level per se. It's not about like their dedication or their devotion. It's feeling that sense of spiritual connection or alignment.
All those things are important, but for the most optimal results to happen, I need to feel that we are together and our forces combined do this. I need to feel like there's no blocks in there when I'm talking to them, that, I'm mentioning blocks a lot because they're hindrances of people attaining levels that they need to get to. And it's hard. Sometimes you don't even know you have a block. you're working on that cross like over and over for months on end, and I'm still telling you, you need to turn it over, your elbows out or whatever the cue is, and you just can't get it. And you're crystallized for whatever reason, stuck in a moment, stuck in your mind. And so a lot of times when people are stuck or they have these barriers, it's not for positive reasons, it's for negative reasons. And so in order to break those down, and better yet, even to just see them, it takes awareness, and it takes some guts, and it takes some courage, and a lot of love to break those down. And when you break those down, you're able to go in deeper, and the teaching goes deeper and deeper, and you can elevate and continue to elevate. And whether the results in the ring are good or bad, ultimately they're good, because you went into the ring and you changed and you overcame what you needed to overcome. We can't control, oh, they called it this way, they called it that way, blah, blah, they were better, they were worse, whatever. You win, you lose, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you see it all as a win, and that is the victory.
Makes complete sense. So generally speaking, with like regular classes, how do you feel like that, the same question just towards just regular students and just the regular grind of teaching?
I don't know, regular classes, you have to sort of water stuff down, because there's people coming in for, workout. They work a 9 to 5, punching, numbers, or whatever they're doing. And then they come in, they just have an hour. I want to give people a good workout.
Right.
I want them to feel good. And so I don't take these like deep dives that are,
sure,
important for like life changes, when these people just want to get in and burn like 400 calories and go home and hit something.
Yeah.
And I get that too,
Sure.
Because maybe that's your starting point. You're mad, or you just need to hit something, or your buddy's dragging you or whatever. So, I'll try to drop in little pieces of, keeping it honest here and there in the beginning or at the end of class, but just giving people good information, some basics, and something to like get you feeling good,
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah. This is a pretty big fight team you're coming up on for these 2 tournaments, right? Potentially.
Potentially is the key word there, Iggy.
I know how that goes.
I know you do.
I've witnessed it a couple times, but
Yeah, it's a big one.
yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
It's exciting though.
For who?
Definitely for them. Definitely for them.
I love it. I do. I love it. I love what I do. I love it so much.
That's awesome. And it shows. And by the way, even though I'm not part of this current fight team, I will be cornering, hopefully, if you'll allow me, if you'll have me.
Yes, of course, yes.
At least locally.
Yeah.
So do you feel that being a healer and a martial artist gives you a unique perspective as a teacher?
Well, I only have my perspective, so yeah, you don't know what to compare it to.
That's okay. Share it. Share it then. Share that
I do.
perspective.
I think that there's so much healing in fighting. As strange as that sounds to people that don't fight, but and there's so much healing that needs to take place, like what we were talking about earlier, to be able to really get to that true potential that you are capable of. And so I just, I really want to incorporate, I try my best to incorporate those with students that are fighting, to be able to heal, to not only feel good about their fight camp and what happens in the ring, but something to hang on to till the day they close their eyes forever, like something to hold on to. Yeah.
That's great. I got one for you, Kru. What role does intuition play in your teaching, whether it's guiding a student's progress or helping them through a difficult time? Right? Because you find yourself as a mentor too. You're not just a teacher.
I think that being a teacher is kind of all those things, but I don't know. I feel like I do have good instincts, but I'm just listening and kind of listening to what's being said and not said, and I don't know. I don't really know how to answer this question.
That's okay.
Without sounding crazy. You can see a lot about people. I mean, I can see a lot about people in the way that they train, or the way that they spar, the way they put their stuff away or put their stuff on or leave it in the middle of the room or don't. The way they approach their partner. So I don't know, there's just cues. And then hopefully I'm in a, you build a relationship with somebody where you know that ultimately this person is here to help you. And even if what they say is kind of blunt, because I guess I'm known to be, kind of blunt, but that person knows that it's for the good, right? So I think, I don't really know what I'm fucking saying, but yeah. I just see things in people, and I try as gently as I can in a blunt way without being too blunt to help them see it.
You're just being direct, not blunt per se. You're being direct, right? You're trying to express that. I mean, they're here for a reason, right? And if they're learning from you, you want to share with them what you're seeing. You're their instructor. You're their crew. I have to say though, Kru, I feel like you incorporate and implement a lot of compassion in the way that you teach. Even in those moments where you're like trying to like gather the troops and you're like, all right, everybody's got to calm down, listen up, we're teaching here, we're taking class. Even in those moments, I still feel like it's not like anyone ever takes it like disrespectfully or personally, like you're trying to contain class and teach. And I see you being so compassionate towards your students and the way that you teach and the way that you instruct. And I definitely see your intuitiveness come through. When you're just sharing technique, I've been in those shoes, obviously. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, you have to. Everybody in here has such a good time with each other, and you have good time inside the gym, outside of the gym, but right. We still need to remember, where we are and why we're here, and we have to honor it. We have to honor the art. We have to honor the principles of the art, and those are. Without those rooting us, it's just going to be chaos in here. It's just going to be a regular gym. So every now and again, you just got to crack the whip and say, yo, listen up. Right. Everybody just shut up. I mean, I never say shut up, but let's quiet down. Yeah. Everyone's too chatty or too loose or just, this is, you approach it with integrity and honesty and humility and discipline.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you get the most out of it.
That's what I love about this place.
Yeah.
I need some discipline in my life for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a few laughs along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another great quality about you, Kru. You're very humble, and you make sure you do not post yourself above anyone else. But with that being said, you have a direct line of connection to energy. You see it, you sense it. And I know this from experience because I feel like I'm kind of like that too, but I've seen you feel that way. Like, for example, at tournaments, let's say we're at a certain portion of where everybody's warming up and you're just like, I am not feeling this energy in this room. I need to draw everybody out of here and we're going to go elsewhere and we're going to continue our warm up till it's time to fight. And you draw us out of that space and you draw us out of that energy because you're aware of something that maybe the rest of us aren't. Mm-hmm. And that is intuition, right? You have this sense of wanting to draw everyone out and put them in a place where the energy is, more confined within ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's huge. I mean, that's a huge part of being aware, I guess, being in connection with your team, with your fighters, with what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to help them achieve.
I'm definitely sensitive energetically and, with everybody. And I think that I also kind of take inventory of what's happening and who's around me. And I don't know if that's me or if that's probably a combination of martial art, training and being a fighter. You just kind of are assessing, and if something doesn't feel right, or instincts are like
Right.
and we just move. Or if somebody's I'm feeling like this person is, something's just not right, I can tell, you're not looking at me with the same softness. It's not like I just have a feeling, but there's clues, like your eyes aren't as sweet, or your smile isn't genuine. There's, it's just being cognizant and observant, really.
Yeah.
And then you just start breaking down, like, what is it? Oh, that smile seems like it's
Insincere or...
Oh, yeah, insincere, or coming from a pain point, or whatever it may be.
Right.
And then getting to that, and especially with the fight team, you can't hide. There's nowhere to hide, because when you're in the ring, it's all out, and you have to face all the things, and go in as light, spiritually and emotionally as possible.
Man, that made me think of a question, actually, and I think it's a really interesting one for myself personally, because it just dawned on me. So as you're cultivating a fighter's practice, not just with yourself, but with your fighters, and you're trying to make them become a bit more observant, right? More aware of not just what they're doing in terms of technique, but then also implementing strategy when they're fighting, right? Because when you're fighting someone from a different school, you're not sparring the same style, right? And you don't know what to expect. You don't know what they're going to come with. You have to try to have a sense of openness in your perception as to what might be coming your way. So if you consider that spiritually, wouldn't you say that you're cultivating that aspect of them? In other words, through the practice of being more aware of what you're trying to implement in terms of strategy and stuff, maybe that's opening up something else for them too, right? Their perception spiritually, right? Because you have to tap into, you were just saying that once you go into the ring, there's no hiding. Mm-hmm. So that sense of spiritual self, whether you're aware of it or not, is going to come out. Mm-hmm. So maybe you are developing and implementing the spiritual openness and awareness and awakeness through the practice of what you teach in Muay Thai.
And yes, but going back to our blocks and the negative experiences that we have in life, and how they just boom up. Okay, I'm not going to look at that, or that's like a defense mechanism. Boom, and you have all of these things. But when you look at them and have to break them down so you can access the big guns, the unlimited potential within, that takes love, and that's where the spirituality comes in, I think, not because your awareness is broad or because you've opened up, but because you are in touch and in the vibration of, like, I don't want to sound so woo, but just simply put, that you are putting love into yourself and compassion, and that allows your nervous system and your soul and your emotions to just open and relax, and then you can be open and go.
Kru, just so you know, we love and welcome the woo woo.
We thrive on the woo.
I don't know. It's just, yeah.
I think that makes so much sense, though, what you're saying in terms of openness. And you're right, like trying to deal with the blockages or facing the blockages, working through them so that then you can relax. Because I feel like, and I know this with myself, if I'm all of a sudden approached with something that's uncomfortable or bothersome or painful, right? The first thing I want to do is block it. Like not like we were saying, I'm not looking at that. I don't want to, but by not looking at it, then you're not facing it, then you're not dealing with it, and then you're suppressing it, and then it festers, right? It becomes deeper, and then it affects you in unconscious ways. Like it comes out in ways that maybe you're not aware of because you're not willing to face those things. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to think about in terms of like fight camp, how much of those things, or not even just fight camp, but just being here and being your student and wanting to test or just trying to push yourself through a difficult class, let's say, those things could be happening, right? The openness could be happening.
Yeah. And, sometimes at the beginning of class, I say, let's get the dark parts out, because when you hit things, you hear people say, you have to be more grateful. You have to be more thankful. You have to be more loving. You're trying to do these things, but how do you do them? Do I just be grateful all of a sudden? Do I just be more loving? That's impossible. You can't just be that. And you need a vehicle. And for us and everybody in here and everybody, in fighting arts, when you hit things, as weird as that sounds, then you get out the things that you need to get out, and then you can be more loving and more compassionate and more grateful. But just to bring in the world, bring in, pile on, and no exit, and then just be loving and grateful. I feel like that's a near impossible task for me. But to have some way to, channel all of that energy and that stuff out so you can get to your compassion and your love.
It's like
you gotta hit stuff.
Yeah.
Or someone.
That's so loving. It's funny. I was just thinking. It's like that's the work through, right? Like the punching, the kicking, the kneeing is literally the working through whatever dark parts we might be dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You know how you were saying about being rooted and how both of you found the spirituality. And I want to tell you this, but I feel that it would be best and most rooting if you were able to find a community that, like a church, but not a church, but one that aligns with what you think. So you are kind of like, okay, we have Muay Thai, but that community is only so big, and we don't take it. We don't take it there. You have that community, but you want something deeper that grounds you, and then so you turn to like a deeper spirituality. But to have that community also, I think, is it'd be great for, I don't know if it exists.
I couldn't agree. And the closest thing that I found to that is we tapped into this community, the home bath community, like the guy who runs it, and he does like sound baths all the time. That's been like the closest thing that I have found to like it being like a church, and it's an hour. And you do the sound bath, and he guides you through it, and he talks a lot about a lot of these similar things that we discuss. And Bonnie and I go as often as we can. It's not church exactly, right? Like church, but I don't know if there's anything like that out there per se. I know that you had found the church a while ago.
It was like a spiritualist church.
Yeah,
they do like psychic readings in the middle of the. They'll talk to like the
service.
People in the room.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. And it's not. Some of it's Christianity based. Some of it's not. But yeah.
Kru, I just had my cards read too, by the way. Bonnie and I went on this retreat over New Year's.
Okay.
And I had my cards read like a couple of days beforehand, and I was like blown away. This woman knew my mother's name.
No.
I'm not lying. She knew, and I don't know how she could have found out. She could have dug as deep as she wanted on Facebook and not have found a single word, a single mention of my mother's name. And she knew my mom's name. She goes, have you ever heard of that Russian model, Ursula, blah, blah, blah? And I was like, what? I'm like, no,
Oh my God.
But that's my mom's name. This woman was like, she knew my mother's name. She knew my father's name. And my father and my brother share the same name. She goes, that was the first name she came up with. She goes, when I was a kid, I had a dog named Ivan. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Wow.
Remember, I was telling you.
That's so specific. I mean, that's not information that's just out there.
I was like, no, but that's my brother's name and my father's name. And she goes, your father's spirit is with you. She goes, your mother's spirit is with you. They're with you all of the time.
But you know that.
Yeah,
You know
I
that.
do know that.
You don't need psychic.
I didn't need her to tell me.
You didn't need
but
her.
for someone to like sense that and to know those names, I was like, this lady sees some shit. Like,
It's definitely
Yeah.
reaffirming to hear that too.
Yeah.
For somebody
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a complete stranger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's also fun and entertaining.
It
to
is.
do. It is.
It
I
is.
mean, when I
It
get my,
is.
it's so entertaining.
It
I'm
is.
like, oh, what are they going to say?
Right.
You know,
Right. And she didn't like give me anything other than that was profound. That I
Yeah.
was like, not something that I already thought about or someone else had maybe shared with me in terms of like what they sense. But for her to know my mom's name, like, and not be able to find that anywhere, like, I was like, wow, like this lady sees some shit.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. She blew me away.
Kru, have you heard of the Akashic Records? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You ever had yours read or? What do you think about it? Because I have an appointment booked for the first.
I ended up not pulling the
Really?
trigger.
Yeah. I found a center that does it.
Yeah, here
You
locally.
found a what?
An actual.
There's a
person that
Reiki
does
center
It.
that does it here.
Yeah, and it's remote. It's over Skype
Yeah.
or phone call.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to do it too. I really want to see what they say.
Yeah. It's like a mixture of a psychic reading and
Like
past
the
life
poss-
regression
Yeah.
and all that.
And they do it
in
like
one.
they say it's like it co-aligns with an ancestry reading too, from what I read. So it's not just like your past lives, but like your genetic connection in your ancestral line.
Well, they say the Akashic Records is like every emotion, thought, everything you've said is in the Akashic Records.
Wow.
Which is kind of scary that they could tap into that. But
Yeah, that's wild. That's some woo shit right there.
Yeah.
Wow. That's going to be, when is that?
The 1st of February. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about
It's
that.
either that or
Alright.
do like a psychic reading, but yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
going to be good.
Yeah. I'm going to take detailed notes. So
Man, Kru, I wanted to ask you just like a question that's completely off of this, and it's kind of personal, but I just want to ask and I just want to see I just want to know what you have to say. So, with becoming like more in alignment with your spiritual self, and then you feel like you have things that are calling out to you, but you're afraid for whatever reason to pull the trigger and do it and try it or change it or shift it. What advice would you give to someone who's like dealing with those fears? What do you think a good approach would be to try to help you remove that fear and go for what you're feeling being called to?
I mean, what do you have to lose? Really? What do you have to lose? We're here to create and be. So just surround yourself with people that support you and believe in you, and remember who you are.
Aaron always makes these like really cool like video soundbite clips, and I just
Yeah.
have a feeling that that's gonna be the one, the Kru one. Remember who you are. It's gonna be so awesome. All right, last couple of questions here. So what is your vision for the future of Muay Thai in your community? How do you see it? And I'm just talking about the school. I'm not talking about anything outside of us per se, unless you want to chime in on that too. But
The future of the school.
in our community.
I would be in our community.
Yeah.
The future of our community.
Of our community and our Muay Thai school. Yes.
I would like for things to stay the way they are.
Yeah.
I mean, things are good.
Yeah, they are
You
good.
know, classes are good, fight team's good. The community is tied together
Stronger than ever.
and aligned. That's good.
Yeah.
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 If it can stay like this, that would be great.
Yeah.
if you could leave your students with one lasting lesson, what would it be?
Remember. Simba. Remember who you are.
I can't. Oh.
God, Aaron, that's really tough. Be gentle with yourself and be gentle with others. I think that would be it. And do whatever it takes to get you to be gentle with yourself and gentle to others.
That's good advice, man. Okay, last question. How do you hope to be remembered as a martial artist and teacher?
True. Genuine.
That's awesome.
It's beautiful.
It is. All right. Well,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Kru.
yeah,
Thank
Kru.
you.
Seriously, this is really an honor to do it in here and to
Yes.
be able to talk to you.
Thanks for letting us
I mean,
video
I had
here.
the best 5 hours. Oh, God, that was fun.
You're the best. Thanks for coming on.
Hey,
All
bring
right.
this round table for cards sometime.
Yeah,
right?
for real.
Oh no, you see what you start. You don't know what you started at my house.
What are you talking
You know
about?
what you started. So Bonnie bought one of those setups. And
Which
now
setup?
it's a card setup, and she wants to do a monthly get together, and everybody's gonna come over and play cards and chips. That's our dining room table now. We're talking about like a 5-inch marble table that cannot be moved. That's been our dinner table. It is now like
A poker table?
a poker table. Meaning she just bought like a cover for it. So now there's no more. You can't see any more marble. It's just
You eat
a
dinner on a poker
well,
table?
we don't. We don't eat dinner on a poker
'Cause
table.
that'd be
but it's been set up now, and she's like, okay, we're doing poker monthly now, monthly at the house. So
I'm all in.
just
I'm
that's
in.
what
You better
started.
invite me to
yeah,
that.
of course,
sure.
of course, of course. All right, that's
All
a
right.
wrap.
It's a wrap.
Thanks for listening, everybody.